Hey guys, it's Josh Junta here, also known as Love Science Music. I'm here at GSI Studios, and today I want to talk to you guys about summing. And summing is kind of interchangeable with the word bouncing. So as you know, if you work in Pro Tools or Logic or Ableton, when you want to take your track of multi-tracks in a session, so you have all these different instruments and all these different tracks, and you want to print it out into an MP3 or a WAV, then what happens is a process called summing, or in the digital realm, a bounce. So I want to explain to you the difference between analog summing and digital summing. So let me explain what summing is and where it comes from. So when you have a multi-track recording, which means a recording that was made from a number of different microphones and different tracks, so you have like 10 tracks of drums, 10 tracks of vocals, 5 tracks of bass, 6 synthesizers, 3 guitars. What you do is when you're mixing, you basically have one of those instruments on a track. So on an analog console like this, you can see the numbers. Each channel represents a piece of audio or a track of audio. So you'd have right here I have it labeled. I have like a piano mic, and then a pair of piano mics and another pair of piano mics. Over here you'll have lead vocals on 2 tracks, background vocals on 2 tracks, effects, and so on and so forth. So those are all the instruments within a song, within a mix. So before you sum and before you bounce, you're listening to all these audio files at the same time. You're listening to, say, I have 20 tracks of audio. There's 20 instruments in my mix. So on a console, like I said, each track is going through one channel strip of the console. And when you want to print the track or print the mix, say you're done with your mix, the console is taking all of those 20 tracks, which are 20 different pieces of audio playing at the same time, and the console sends those 20 pieces of audio, those 20 track informations, and sums them all together through the console, and it becomes the print track stereo left and stereo right, which basically means the left speaker and the right speaker, or the left earbud and the right earbud if we're talking about headphones. So that process is summing. It goes through the 20 different channels, go into a summing bus inside the console, and it goes down to 2 channels of audio. In the console there's a stereo left sum and a stereo right sum. So that's analog summing, and you can sum on a console, analog, or you can sum in the box, which would be in Pro Tools here. Pro Tools also can do the same job of taking all those different audio tracks, say those 20 audio tracks, and then when you bounce in software, in Logic, in Ableton, and Pro Tools, when you go through the bounce process, it does the same exact thing, but it does it via a software algorithm where all those 20 tracks get summed down to a 2-track stereo left and right, except the software is handling that process instead of an analog console. So the reason I'm bringing this up and talking about this in the video is because they sound different. So to be honest, the analog summing sounds a lot better, and the reason for that is because you have every piece of audio is going through all this different circuitry. There's a lot more circuitry involved, and generally when you're dealing with high quality audio gear, the more circuits you hit, the better it sounds, because that creates saturation and it creates warmth, and the harmonics in the recorded information is going through analog circuitry, and that's responsible for that analog sound that a lot of us love. The differences I hear are that the analog summing has more depth, which means you hear things further back, like deep reverbs sound like they're further away, there's more space, and the width is like dramatically different. The stereo image on an analog mix sounds way bigger, where the left side sounds further left, the right side sounds further right. So it's just like a bigger spectrum of audio, and it's like a more interesting sonic world. And you'll hear that the Pro Tools sum sounds way tighter, and just things kind of sit on top of each other a little more, and kind of in a bad way where it sounds more crowded. Still sounds good, but it's a different thing, and I think until you hear these two back to back, you won't really know that that's a thing. There is a middle ground between a console and software summing. You can get what's called a summing mixer or a summing bus, which is like a rack unit piece of gear. And if you don't have a console, it's like, it would be this big instead of the size of a console. It's far cheaper. And what that's doing is you're sending all of your digital tracks into the summing mixer, and then the summing mixer, it's summing analog in the same way as a console, and then it prints back to digital to have your final bounce. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. Let me know in the comments what else you'd like me to talk about, or if you have any questions about summing.